Hey everyone, Alpha Eagle here again. Welcome back to my channel. I pray you're all doing well, and may God bless you all. I'm continuing my coverage of the woke garbage known as X-Men 97. To sum up Episode 6, Professor X is about to marry Lilandra until he sees a vision of Gambit's death and decides to return to Earth. Meanwhile, Storm regains her powers and defeats Adversary through the power of positive thinking, I guess. And again, I saved you a half hour of wasted time. You're welcome. There are those on my side of the aisle who actually recommend this series and claim it's not woke. That's a total lie. This show is very woke, as you can see by this episode, and this is the White Man Bad episode. And even if this series wasn't woke, it's still a bad series. For example, this episode is boring. Not much actually happens, and there's barely any action. It's mostly just talking. Anyway, I was right. Like I said in my last video, Professor X is still alive. But that's not a very hard prediction to make. Anybody with a functioning brain could have figured that one out. But anyone who actually thought he was dead? Let me ask you this question. How was your trip to school on that short bus? Anyway, this episode starts with the Shi'ar attacking the Kree, with Ronan the Accuser being defeated way too easily by Deathbird. But of course she does, because he is a man, and men are pathetic and weak in this series. Deathbird is sent a message from her sister Lilandra, and the message is that she is engaged to be married to Charles Xavier. In my video on episode 4, I said that Jubilee treated Sunspot like a pet. Many people disagreed with me, claiming that this show doesn't disrespect men, and that they're not shown as weak and pathetic. But then Charles says this.
The Empress, Lilandra Niramani, and her royal consort.
Your man speaks as if I am your pet. Not an entirely displeasing thought.
Hush now, beloved. You may bark later.
See, I told you. The show even admits that men are treated like pets, even suggesting that Charles is a cuck who wants to be dominated by women. Again, proving that not only do the writers of this show hate men, they also don't understand the characters. Anyway, Deathbird is not happy with the news that her sister is marrying Charles, since Charles is not a Shi'ar and he's from a different planet. And frankly, she's right. The Shi'ar should be ruled by someone from the Shi'ar homeworld, just as the American president should be born in America. You know the show's bad when they make you root for the supposed villain. Anyway, Deathbird demands that Charles proves his loyalty by erasing all of his memories of his past life, including the X-Men. Now, I think this is a little harsh, but again, I kinda agree with Deathbird. For example, a foreign person who wants to become a citizen of the US, they should assimilate to our culture and pledge loyalty to our country. Agrees to go through with this ritual which will wipe his mind of his past. But then they ask him to forget the X-Men and Charles hesitates, which causes a fight to break out. Then Charles uses his powers to kidnap the major members of this conflict and bring them to the astral plane. Then the episode goes full woke as Charles humiliates them as he sets them down in a child's classroom. And what's the subject of this struggle session? Critical race theory. Charles then condescendingly lectures the Shi'ar people, telling them that they are the villains of history. They are the evil white colonizers. And if they didn't colonize those other societies, and if those societies were allowed to develop on their own, they would be empires themselves equal to the Shi'ar Empire. I'm going to bring us back to the real world for a second and say that everything Charles said was BS. Colonization done by people of European descent has been very positive for this world. All cultures are not equal. Europeans never colonized non-European countries. The non-Europeans would still be living in huts with no electricity, no running water, no modern conveniences at all. They would still be fighting, raping, cannibalizing, and enslaving each other, and dying of diseases at the age of 30. So the idea that non-European countries would have thrived and evolved to the level of the United States all on their own is nonsense. Wakanda is not real, folks. It could never have been real, and it will never be real. So let's get back to the episode. Think about what Charles just did. Think about the audacity and the disrespect it took for him to do that. He's a foreigner. He's a guest to their planet. They took him in, they fed him, they clothed him, they gave him a place to stay, and they even supplied him with the technology that gave him the ability to walk again. And what does he do? Kidnapped them, and he forced them to listen to his lecture on how they are the bad guys, and that he is morally superior to them, and that they should be ruled by him, and that they need to conform to him instead of him conforming to them. People like Ilhan Omar. She's also a foreigner who came to the U.S. as a refugee. We fed her, clothed her, housed her, paid for her education, took care of all her needs, and instead of showing gratitude, she says that we are the bad guys and she should be ruling over us. The lion, the witch, and the audacity on this female dog. It also reminds me of Meghan Markle and how she wants Britain and the royal family to bow to her rule. Anyway, back to the episode. During his forced struggle session with the Shi'ar, Charles sees a vision of the death of Gambit. He decides to call off the wedding and return to Earth, making everything that happened in this episode so far pointless. Now on to the B story. Forge was bitten by Adversary, and Storm is trying to heal him. Adversary attacks Storm, and Forge sends Adversary away with a magic spell that he gets from a book. And listen to what they say about Forge's magic book.
Is magical. Perhaps your mother's book holds an answer.
It said that Forge got that magic book from his mother. This was not on purpose. They could have said that he got the book from his parents, but they specifically wanted to credit Forge's mother because, as we've seen earlier, men are inferior in this series and they are no more than pets to the women. And this is not me finding something that's not there. They literally said that men are women's pets earlier in this episode. Then Forge tells Storm where to get a magic cactus that will heal his wounds, and then they say this.
Actually built during the Plains War decades earlier by colonists.
Those wars exterminated your people. Why let them build such a thing into the very foundations of your land?
Forge and Storm have to preach to us about the evil white colonizers. So it's not me looking for some woke anti-white, anti-American, anti-colonization message. They literally put it in the show. So the people telling you that this show is not woke, they're lying to you. Storm finds the cactus to heal Forge, defeats Adversary, and somehow magically regains her powers through the power of positive thinking, I guess. She even somehow grows her hair back and her classic costume forms around her like Sailor Moon. And she does this all on her own because she don't need no man. I mean, seriously, take Forge out of the story and the outcome remains the same. Some will say, yeah, but Forge, he had the magic book. Well, Storm defeated Adversary without the book, so the book wasn't necessary anyways. Or some will say, well, she needed Forge to tell her where the cactus was to heal his wound. Well, if he wasn't there, he wouldn't have been bitten in the first place, so again I say Forge was useless. Anyway, the episode ends with an epilogue showing a man, Bolivar Trask, acting weak and pathetic again. And it's revealed that Mr. Sinister is behind the Sentinel attack on Genosha. Dun dun dun. So, in this episode, men are shown as weak, useless cucks who enjoy being dominated by women and treated like pets. And that white people are evil colonizers. I will say that there are a few good things about this episode, and that is Morph, again, is not in the episode, and Magneto is still dead. For now. But it's still a thumbs down for me. Anyway, that's about it for this video. I'm Alpha Eagle. God bless you for watching. God bless America. And I pray that people who claim this show is not woke stop lying to their audience.